But then I came across this guy's article in Market Watch. His name's Chris Mamula, and he was saying, look, I'm 2 years into my early retirement. Here's all the things I've gotten wrong. And the number 2 thing on his list was his housing budget. He's a guy who followed finance for years and reported on it. And he, even with his what he thought was advanced exposure to financial knowledge, vastly underestimated how much housing would cost. Does that happen a lot?
Underestimated how much housing would cost?
Yeah, and it's not...
Was he relocating or something to an area he was unfamiliar with or never had housing until then?
There's 2 parts to this. Part of this is the monthly payment went up a little faster than they expected. That's not too catastrophic. They did have some home repairs that they had budgeted for, but the thing they didn't budget for was a $30,000 renovation. At some point, it doesn't say what the renovations are, but I have a wife right now who swears we need new cabinets. Like our cabinets right now aren't working. And if she gets new cabinets, I'm going to burn the house down and walk off. But
you could well spend $30,000 just on the cabinets.
I know this, and that's scary.
That does not include that granite countertop either.
So they didn't budget in a home renovation in retirement. That set them back, and now they're having trouble making up ground.
Yeah.
Does that happen to everybody? That sounds like something.
It does not happen to everybody, but from time to time, it comes up in discussions that, we're wanting to renovate the bathroom, the master bath, or upgrade the kitchen. From time to time, I hear those discussions. Or, you know what, I want to redo my back porch. You have those different conversations, but it's not like every client. By the way, we've got to factor in some money to redo the house. I want wood floors throughout. No, we don't have that as a usual conversation, but it does come up. And we're having a discussion about it, but they're kind of stating, we want to use this. We want to set aside this. They, retiring or coming into some money, but hey, I want to do this.
Okay, so my next thought is when people retire in their late 60s, early 70s, they're going to live to their late 80s, early 90s. They're going to be in this place for 20 years. And it's rare that people live in the same house 20 years without making a major change of some sort. You almost have to have a renovation fund built into your retirement plan if you want to have all your bases covered, or at least a little bit of margin so you can cover stuff like that.
Well, heck, for that matter, when you retire, the vehicle you have, car, truck, van, whatever, is it lasting through retirement?
Right, that's the same thing.
Does it necessarily say, I need to factor in, I'm going to need several more vehicles during retirement. I'm retiring for 30 years. It does not get factored in that way. But what you're looking for, if you're renovating your house now at your point in your career, or you're wanting a vehicle, are you kind of saying, gosh, I wish, we're going to have to save up $30,000 to buy those cabinets. Or, you know what, it's time for a new truck. Now I'm going to have to save up $50K to get that new truck. Maybe that's too much. Maybe it's less. Is that what you're going to do while you're working?
Now you're going to take on debt, aren't you?
How's that different than retirement? How are you doing that? It's going to fit in your lifestyle. Now, are there people that write a check or whatever from savings? Yes. And it impacts the total amount of their assets, but at some point, it's probably factoring into the income flow of what you're doing. You keep doing that, and you're going to knock down the income generating assets. So that's why you have emergency money, interim money, and then income generating assets. So, some people live in their house 30 years and don't do anything to it, James. And I've seen those too.
I'm just
They say, I'm done with this house and buying another. They just sell it and move on to another.
the more scenarios I'm exposed to through the course of doing this show over almost a decade, the more I'm really concerned about this last little few percent there we call margin. And the question kind of becomes, how much do you really need? And no one wants to live paycheck to paycheck. You don't want to spend up to the bleeding edge of your paycheck every month just to get by, because that'll trip you up. But, I mean, how much do you need there? 10%, 20%, 30%? I mean, of course we'd like it to be huge, but...
And there's people across the spectrum that kind of, they get by on everything, that their distributions, their Social Security and so forth. They're getting by on that. Then you have other people that, from that extreme to one other, I'll go back in that direction, they're short every month, and that's affecting them. They're still spending more than they're taking in, even though we've talked about it, and they say, oh, we thought we got it under control. Then you go to the other end of the spectrum is, yeah, we have an extra $3,000 a month. I had that discussion recently.
Nice.
Do we need to turn on more income? Or, and they're looking at, okay, with this source of income's going to end, so how do we replace it? I said, oh, we got more than enough other sources of income to turn on. But, should we turn it on now? Should we wait? I said, I think you should wait. You have $3,000 a month in surplus income as it is now. I think you're good. With that said, we are going to get all those sources of income turned on down the road. Absolutely. So, so they obviously could do some remodeling in that case if they wanted to, because they have pretty good margin, big margin.
Yeah, the wife is talking about a backsplash as well. It's like, oh, man, I have to go Google what backsplash is now. I like the stories you have, though, of the people
just
where...
put up some plastic behind it, huh?
Saran wrap, right? The Reynolds wrap, that'd be fine. Or we could do aluminum foil, nice and shiny. That's what you want. Okay, so I love the stories you have. Makes me very optimistic about retirement, where you tell people maybe you just should start living larger. Go out to eat a little bit more. You need to spend some of this money. This money's coming out. You have RMDs. You're going to have to take it. I know you don't have anything to do with it or anywhere to put it, but just, man, eat a steak or something.
Yeah, and then some, we're not here trying to leave all the money behind. Then you get that conversation. We want to make sure we spend it. I assure you, you will.
I love those people.
Because I went about it this way. I said, most people are not going to live through retirement with all of their assets intact. Most are not. And we're speaking of those that have retirement dollars. But for somebody to not have some sort of spend down on the back end of it, they have quite a bit of money. But it's likely you're going to need more later for health reasons and so forth. And things are going to cost a lot more. It just isn't going to stay intact. You don't have to worry about that.
I think about 1,000 little things, though. When you're in that situation, you don't have to think about when you go to the grocery store, okay, I need peanut butter. You don't have to look at the price tag on the bottom. It's like, well, this nice super premium kind is like $8 a jar. Maybe I have to get the sorry store brand that's $4 a jar. You don't even have to think about that if your money's lined up. You can just kind of tra-la-la, smelling the roses, skipping through life, worrying about other things.
So you're saying you could buy it based upon the flavor of the peanut butter instead of on the price.
Right, and some people get to live in that world, and some people don't have a choice. Some people want to get the super nice Skippy, where they have the double crunch, but they have to get the one that just says in Times New Roman and the black font on their peanut butter.
So is Skippy priced any different than Jif
yes.
or Peter Pan?
Actually, Peter Pan and Skippy are that top shelf. Jif undercuts it. I guess choosy moms aren't that choosy after all. And then there's like the store brand, and then there's one at Winn-Dixie. It's like SE Grocers, where they just write on it with like a typewriter, and it just says peanut butter. That's the one I get.
Okay. Is it all natural?
No, I have to get the Skippy, or my kids revolt on me. They will drown me in the generic peanut butter.